Thank you, everybody, for coming in for another Her Wild Outdoors episode. Today, Linda White's joining me. And Linda, thank you for having this conversation. We are here early this morning chit-chatting about trapping, and I truly appreciate that.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate your time.
Of course. Now, tell us just a little bit about where you are and who you are and how the outdoors and trapping kind of came into your life, that beginning part of it.
Yes. So I am probably not your normal trapper. As a child, this was not something that was in my life. I was actually a city girl. So it wasn't something that I had done. My father was my biggest role model, and he liked to fish. He would hunt every now and then, but trapping wasn't something he did. So as a child, I was all about fishing. When I was 12, I tried the whole hunting thing, went out with him. We did squirrel hunting is what it was, just to see where I was with things.
Yeah.
Went out, I shot a squirrel. First shot, it was perfect. He was so excited. He's like, oh, she's got some great aim. I went over to the squirrel, cried, made him bury it in the backyard, and that was the end of my hunting. So, yeah, he was like, well, I don't think we're going to try for anything bigger if a squirrel really hurt you there, sweetheart. So I fished a lot. When I met my husband, well, now my husband, on our first date, he was like, you're a fisherman, I'm a fisherman, I'm a trapper, and I'm a hunter, so if you can't get on board with that, we probably need to, stop this now. And I went back to a friend of mine. Now, I lived in the city at that time, so I was in Erie, Pennsylvania right then,
Okay.
And I told a friend of mine this, and she showed me every anti-trapping propaganda that was out there.
Oh, my goodness.
I had seen it all. And I had really no clue what he was talking about when he said trapping. I was like, well, I fish, so no big deal. And, I tried the hunting thing. I'm not against it. I just apparently am a baby. So, that was fine. And, trapping, quite honestly, this is how naive I was. I was thinking, rats, mice,
Exterminator.
Okay. Yeah, I'm like, that's kind of weird, but whatever, dude, if that's what you're into.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I saw it all, and I was like, I had been talking to this guy for quite a while, and I thought, I don't think he's a serial killer. I just don't think that. And that's kind of how trapping was portrayed to me in all of this propaganda that they have out there. Like he must be a serial killer and going to end up in the basement. That's what... And I just didn't get that vibe from him. So
Right.
I had said to him, I'd like to go out and see what this is all about. And he kind of stopped a little bit. He's like, okay, sure. So then what actually took place was he let me ride along with him. And I don't know if you've ever been on a trap line before, but normally most trappers have a log. Where all your sets at, what baits and lures have you used, when were they at,
Mm-hmm.
what have you caught, those kind of things. So he told me, he's like, well, if you're going to come along, you're going to work. We don't have any free rides here. So I was like, okay. And that's what I did that day is I kept his logs for him. And the entire time he talked about everything that I had seen.
Mm-hmm.
I had so many questions from, everything that my friend had showed me and everything. And the passion that was there, I was blown away, and we talked about, Mother Nature and how if you let so many of these animals go, Mother Nature is way cooler than any human is, really,
Yeah.
As far as trapping and hunting and how many people just don't understand the other side of things.
Right.
And that, the spark that was in him, I was like, oh, I need to know more about this. People don't get it. They just don't get it. So that was kind of my start with things, which has blown up. We own Sawmill Creek Baits and Lures, which is a bait and lure business for trapping. We're here to talk about trapping girls, so you'll hear all about that. But then I also am part of what's called the She Side, which I write articles that promote women in trapping, and I'm part of Real Camo Girl, which promotes women in the outdoors. And it literally went from there to this huge I'm everywhere kind of thing with this, and trying to really get it out to people that this is not what you think.
Right.
Trapping is it's just another form of conservation, really.
Yeah.
And all the horrible stories that you hear is just so not what it is.
I think that's what... I think if you talk to not an anti-hunter, but if you talk to a non-hunter who has never been around hunting or trapping or fishing, that the most information that they have gotten is from that anti-propaganda against it, not necessarily the education side of it. And I think it's ignorance, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. I mean it in a respectful way. It's ignorance toward knowing both sides of something. And I think that that can be applied to many things in this world, not just our community, but many things where it can be either laziness or it can be just who you are in being in the city or being not surrounded by it. But it is a detriment to not educate yourself on both sides of a subject.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think sometimes, as huntermen, or fishermen or trappers, we kind of shy away from putting some of that stuff out there because they're worried, this is going to, turn back on us. But, the antis are out there everywhere blasting things. So the information that they're seeing is that information. They're not seeing the other side of things, where they're worried, traps are breaking legs and everything. Well, I'm not in the business of catching feet. I'm in the business of catching animals. So
right.
I definitely don't have traps that are out there breaking bones or hurting these animals. I mean, quite honestly, I've stuck my hand in my traps before with no problems. It pinches a little bit, and then it's just as if I was wearing a pair of handcuffs, really.
Right.
It's just holding you there. And people don't realize, some of the things that are out there, if you really thought about it, like, wait a minute, that doesn't even make sense,
Yeah. No, it's true. It's one of those things that you see in movies, you see in comedies, you see wherever it can be put in that it's a negative thing. They will go not just to the level of this is what it is, but they will go to the nth level of making the teeth bigger, making the traps. I mean, go back to Tom and Jerry. If I can, take it back to the old school cartoons that we would watch on Saturday morning in the 80s, it was these big monster teeth traps. And that's what people envision in their heads. They get a picture of even up to date, watch, what is it? A Quiet Place 2. And you see these huge teeth traps wrapping around a human's legs. Like that is the picture of what trapping is to somebody who doesn't know exactly what it is, who isn't educated in it. And I think it's huge to take a leap forward into getting that out there, to showing, putting your hand into something and seeing the reaction. And I think that we as women, and I've talked about it on the podcast before, and I've talked about it with Olivia Opry and with a couple of other people, that we as women have such a valuable voice right now in our world that if we don't take that responsibility seriously, then we're going to lose that opportunity. if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, actually, that's kind of how Trapping Girl came all about, because when I first started getting into it, it really wasn't a big deal if I had equipment or things that fit me, because my husband was helping me with a lot of stuff. But when I started running my own line, I was like, there is nothing for women in here.
Mm-hmm.
Our voice is not being heard. Even the difference between having proper gloves that fit us. Most people, for any sport, there's certain gloves, there's certain equipment that you really need, and if it doesn't fit right or properly, it's a hindrance. It's actually a safety issue, and that was the big thing. So I started Trapping Girl with the whole thought of, like, us women, we really do need a voice here. We need to feel that we're not kind of pushed aside. So started the company, and I never realized it was going to be a community. Like now we're doing talks and seminars and trying to really get women involved and have a positive voice. And everybody thinks of us women as these sweet little tender things, and I am.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that I can't do everything that everybody else can do.
Mm-hmm.
I just maybe do it a little different.
Yeah. And people will go, oh, here we go, because I've gotten it. Here we go again. We're going to talk about camo. We're going to talk about gloves. We're going to talk about, but think about it. Think about a trapper. What are the most valuable things that you utilize on your body? Your legs and your hands.
Right.
Your hands specifically. And if you do not have gloves that you can maneuver traps with and maneuver animals with and snares and those kind of things, it is, like you said, it's a safety issue. It is something that it has to work. You cannot fumble around with it, because it can hurt something that you don't necessarily want to trap, that you want to release. There are all sorts of different things that you're looking out for, not only yourself, but what you have in your trap, whether it's going to be kept or released. And it's an understatement to say, oh, we're going to talk about gloves again. Like, for real, come on. This is important. Like, that's an important, valuable part of what you do, is keeping your hands not only safe and warm during the winter months, but also malleable and flexible and in a way that they can work while being protected.
Yeah, and just like you were saying, where your idea is to not only protect yourself, protecting the animals, like setters are a big thing for me. I have baby hands, like tiny, tiny little baby hands. My 12-year-old has bigger hands than I do.
Yeah.
So, like, whenever I set a trap, I have the strength to push the levers down, but I don't have the width of my hand to be able to spread across the trap like my husband does to set it properly. So if I have an animal that is in a trap and I'm trying to release it, whether it's out of season or whatnot, obviously, if you're not able to open that trap properly to release them, then you could actually be doing damage, like you said, to the animal that doesn't need to be done.
Right.
Just because you're improperly being able to open the trap. So, setters, things like that was a big thing for me, that I'm like, I'm not the only one who's having these issues.
No.
I'm not the only one who's got this problem.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that was the thing, when you think about trapping, you think about your big, like, mountain man, you don't think about, the woman who's right next to him, who's doing just as much work, and sometimes
a little bit more
without the proper equipment, maybe even working harder.
Yeah, because you're having to make up for it. It's like I'm a very small person too. I'm I think that I'm shrinking a little, which is a whole nother subject in itself because of age. But
I am with you. It's so funny that you say that because my son, the one day, I'm like, I'm 5'5.5", and he's like, I don't think so, Mom. And he took my measurement, and now I'm 5'3", and I'm like, what the heck happened?
What happened? No, my daughter she's 13, and she's taller than me. And I went, well, okay, so you are taller than me. I can see that she's taller than me. I know that I'm looking up at her eyes. But when we measured her, she's like she's 5'3". And I went, well, I'm over 5'2". Why would I be looking this far up at you? No, I'm not 5'2" anymore. I'm 5'1 3/4", which I know is not much, but to me, it was like a half an inch of loss. And so anyways, I'm a very small person too. And so to keep up with somebody, even another woman who has long legs, I'm like double timing it, trying to keep up in the field.
Right, absolutely.
And we've talked about it a lot, that people do things different, not just because they can't do it one way or another, but because it works better for them to do it the other way. And it has to, you have to figure it out on your own. There are a lot of things that I can pull from other people that work, but then I kind of have to tweak it in a way that makes it work for me. And I've heard over and over, I'm not a trapper. I am actually hoping to help out with a trap line this year with a friend of mine who is a woman here in Tennessee. It's exciting. I can't wait to kind of follow along and, like you said, I'll do the bookwork for her. I'll keep the information. But I think that trapping, from what I've heard and what I've read and what I've talked to people about, it is so personal. Like your own way of doing it is so personal. And the reasons that you do it are personal, but how you do it is so personal because it's you out there doing it. It's you out there making sure that not only can you set it, but you can release it. And that's only trial and error and figuring it out. But once you figure out what works for you, you can probably walk along your husband's trap line and yours and tell immediately who set it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It has. And so there is a documentary that I watched, and I'm trying to remember, it might come to me before this is over, but it was about a trapper. And I thought it was an excellent representation of trapping. It showed some hard stuff as well, but it was an excellent representation of the personal, not just pride, but care that somebody takes in their trap lines. And it showed the release of an animal that shouldn't be trapped at that point in time, and how healthy the animal was when he left. It showed the responsibility of checking your trap line every day when you can. And that's taking pride and care in what you do. And so, yeah, it is personal. You do see the little things that if you go back around, you can go, okay, that was set by so-and-so, and that was set by so-and-so. There are those personal parts of it that become a part of that trap line.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And, unlike hunting where you're yards away from, the animal, you are really up close and personal.
Yeah.
You look into that animal's eyes when you're either dispatching or whenever you're releasing, whatnot. I mean, you are right there. And you're sharing that moment with that animal, and yeah, absolutely, it's definitely a pride thing. And I think that a lot of people, there's this misconception of that we're just out to get the fur. Most of us use so many parts of the animal, and us especially, because we own a bait and lure shop as well. I mean, none of that animal goes to waste.
Right.
And I think that's something that's really important for people to realize as well. We're not just worried about making a couple bucks off the fur, because I'm going to tell you right now, the fur merch is not worth it.
No.
It's the whole animal itself. And, just like you had said, whether you are trapping an animal or releasing that animal, and some people might ask, well, why would you release it? Well, depending on, what season it is, it may be out of season. Also, are we trapping an area where there are maybe male, female
right
in your trap, And then you're looking at it, okay, well, there's a huge male population here, but there really isn't a big female population. So we need to let her go to help, keep the population in the area going. And I always think it's funny because somebody had said to me, well, don't you want to just eradicate the animals there? Well, no, that's not the purpose. That's not the purpose at all. We're helping out with population control. We're not trying to
eliminate completely.
The animal.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there's also, I've had friends who trap and relocate. And that's a whole different aspect of it when you're dealing with, a beaver that is causing a situation with a waterway on farmlands or livestock. Like when you depend on the land, sometimes relocation is a better situation. Sometimes a trapper can come on and help landowners by trapping and taking like that. You can work alongside of people to help everybody. Like if you're needing that animal for your bait and lure shop, there are so many different ways that you can utilize this skill. That's not just, like you said, the fur. That's
right.
That's the furthest. It's there and there is a market for it, but the lures and the baits and the smells and all of that is a huge market right now.
Well, and not only that, but people don't realize, especially if you take beaver castor, for instance. Beaver castor is in a lot of products that we use daily. And people don't realize those things. They don't think about where all of these ingredients come from that's in the product that they're using. They just don't. And, if we're not out there doing this, then you're going to run into the problems, just like you had said, landowners, especially with beaver, for instance, ruining crops and causing damage that, the beaver doesn't mean to cause that damage, but it's still, it's happening. And if we don't help that, it's going to really cost a lot of landowners money, and that's not good.
No, it's not. And I think that there's balance, and you have talked about that, the balance of maintaining the animal population, because that's what we all want, whether you're a hunter, angler, or trapper. We all want to maintain a balance. And whether we like it or not, we humans are taking up more space and more space and more space each year. And what's happening is we are funneling all of these animals into certain places, or we're trying to coexist with them. Or I should say the other way around, they're trying to coexist with us. And it becomes a situation where we're pushing predators out. And so your population that was usually taken care of by predators is now exploding. And,
absolutely.
And it's our responsibility to keep those numbers down. If you've got a huge population of a certain animal that's destructive, we don't want to eradicate it, but it still needs to be managed like it normally would have been with predators, with coyotes, with wolves, with whatever is out there. Cats.
I always think it's so funny whenever you hear, somebody who says, why would you do this? Why wouldn't you let just Mother Nature take over? And why wouldn't you let that, be the cause of things, not you? And the funny thing is, to me, my answer is always well, we're the reason it's a problem.
Yes.
Just like you said, we keep taking up so much space that we're the reason that they don't have, that there is an overpopulation, because they don't have the room to roam like they did.
Yeah. And when you get the population above that balance, then you're going to get sickness. Then you're going to get disease. You're going to get less food for them to eat. You are going to cause them more harm than good. So even if you're a vegan who is against hurting animals, and I put that in quotes, hurting animals, you are still the cause of hurting animals. You are still taking up the space that they would have had, or that a predator would have had, a natural predator would have had, in order to maintain our balance in all of this.
Well, and you've got to look at it too. Unfortunately, with the predator population, because we are kind of pigeonholing, more and more animals to certain areas. The problem now is like we have less, limits on you can't. I think in New York right now for like waterfowl, I think it's like one a day, or your bag limits and things like that. Because what's happening are these predators are now taking over areas as well, because we've pushed them
into small areas.
Places. Yeah. And which is really bad for our other animals, because they're not able to thrive when you've got, packs of coyotes and stuff that are just moving in.
Yeah. We've got coyotes in our neighborhood. We've got coy dogs that are moving in because of coyotes and dogs intermingling. They are dangerous. They run in a pack that is not afraid of humans. And we are causing the imbalance. So
Absolutely.
if we are causing the imbalance, then we are also responsible for creating the balance again. And that includes trapping and hunting predators, which is not a very accepting conversation to have amongst the even non-hunting world, the non-trapping world. And I'm not even talking about antis, but even those who are for, or they think that they're for it, predator hunting and trapping is still such a hard conversation to have for people.
It really is. It really is, and it shouldn't be. And sometimes it's even hard within the community.
Yeah.
Because you have hunters or even anglers that just don't understand it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, sometimes the way they come around is they're put in a situation that they shouldn't have been put in because they didn't allow trapping. That makes sense,
Yeah.
And then, like, we unfortunately had a woman that my husband had worked with, and she was extremely against trapping, and had moved out to the country and had put her little dog out on like a lead, and came out to see coyotes attacking her little dog. And that's super unfortunate, and it's so sad. But then she did realize, like, if you don't take care of these populations, you're going to have instances like that.
Yeah.
And it's so unfortunate that it sometimes takes something like that, or your population to almost go extinct in an area because you have the predators moving in and so on. So it really, it's funny how all of us really go hand in hand. The hunters, the anglers, the trappers. I mean, and I always think it's funny because I guess funny isn't the word I would use, but right now trapping laws are so under attack.
Yes.
And I look at the hunters and so on, and they're like, well, we don't want to get involved. What they don't see is the other side of that is, I always reference us trappers as garbage men. We take care of all those things that you don't want to see. Your predators, your possums, your skunks, your all these different nest raiders and so on. We take care of all of that. So when you go out in the woods, it looks beautiful.
Yes.
There's deer running around. Everything looks amazing.
Yeah.
But think about if you didn't have somebody picking up your garbage for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, it doesn't look as pretty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's what they don't seem to understand is like you need us.
Right.
We do the work no one else wants to do.
Yeah.
To help keep everything else pretty for you.
I've had I think one conversation, but I've had multiple conversations off air about the division between the outdoor community. And I'm not talking about backpackers, or I'm talking about strictly the hunters, the fishers, and the trappers, that there's such a divisive situation going on where it's, if you're an angler but you're not a hunter or a trapper, then I'm going to only support the angling part of the outdoors. Same with hunters, with trappers, that it is just not seen as this, that we're all a part of one big ecosystem. And it's, if we don't support one of us, then the next group that they're going to come after is your group. And
right.
I'm talking about lawmakers. I'm talking about our political system. And we don't get very political on this podcast, but it is something that needs to be spoken out against. They are coming after you. And they've been coming after trapping for a while. But it has seen more heat in the past, I would say 3 years. And you're starting to notice this year that hunting is now, especially in the West Coast, the Oregon, Washington State, California.
Yeah, you're more liberal states, absolutely.
That your hunting rights are now starting to be under more heat. And it's trickling.
And I think the reason for that has a lot to do with the fact that a lot of those states have already eliminated a lot of your trapping rights as well.
I agree.
So now they're just moving on and moving on and moving on. And yeah, not to get political, but if we, as a community, an outdoor community, do not, kind of hold hands on all of these subjects, then really we're causing more of a divide for them.
Right.
We're causing them to find those holes, and even use each other against us. Even these hunters don't agree with these trappers, or even, they're using us against each other, which is so unfortunate that
it works.
Even happen.
It works though, right? If they are thinking, strategy, if they're thinking strategically, if you are in war, what do? You divide your enemy and then you attack. And you don't attack everybody at once. You divide and then you try to make it to where this other side is the weaker side. And, well, okay, we could do without that. We can band together and, okay, I get that a little bit. Or make it to where, well, this isn't your problem. And so that strategically, they are doing an excellent job attacking the outdoor community. We don't need to let them do that. We need to be banding together and seeing that, no, I don't have to be a trapper to support a trapper.
Right. And I really advocate that, if you don't understand something, go out and see it.
Yes.
If you're like, I don't understand why they would do that, or why you would become a trapper or whatnot. Well, I guarantee there isn't a trapper out there that if you said, hey, do you mind if I join you on your line? Join them. You can't touch anything without a license, but there's no laws that say you can't ride along. See what there is. Talk to them. If it wasn't for the fact that I rode along with my husband and heard the passion in his voice and why he does this, and saw with my own eyes what was happening. We're not hurting the animals. How much of that animal is actually being used, and so on. I mean, it could have went very different for me.
Right.
And if I would have listened to my friend at that time, I mean, I could have been on the opposite side holding pitchforks for them all.
Right.
Like, it could have went very, very differently. And I think that's the same with anything. Anglers who maybe don't understand the whole hunting community. Go out, see what's going on.
Yeah.
Don't just stick your head in the sand because, like you said, we're getting divided, and then that group is next.
Right. And it is.
So band together.
It's sometimes easier to stay in your corner. It's so much easier to just stay in your lane and to keep doing what you're doing. But at the end of the day, your lane is going to eventually end. It is.
Right.
If you do not combine forces. And the thing is that I'm not sitting here today going, okay, well, if you're not a trapper, then, or if you don't go and you don't become a trapper, then you're not supporting. Heck no. I don't necessarily know if I would end up trapping, but heck yeah, I'm going to go support my friend. And I'm going to go learn from her. And I'm going to go see what she does so that I can have better conversations with her. And I can not just be a supportive friend, but a supportive hunter for what she does. I want to see how she does these things because she brings over amazing food, and she, like you, utilizes many other parts of these animals. And I enjoy learning. I think that's the best part of women being in our community. We all enjoy learning. We don't necessarily feel like we have to do it if we learn it. And I think that that's valuable. It's valuable
absolutely.
Because we want to just know all of the information. Like you said, you could have just gone off of that one small part of information that you're getting from your friend, but instead you went, okay, I need to see both sides of this. He doesn't really seem like this person that the media is pointing out or picturing or painting a picture of. Let me go ask the question. Let me go see what this is all about. And that's all it takes. Honestly, you don't even have to go out on a trap line. Just sit down and have lunch with somebody and have a conversation.
Yeah, and so I actually, a while back, started a group called Kids for Touches, which is basically to help fund children's trapping groups throughout the United States. And the reason I had done that was not because I expected every kid that went through there to become a trapper.
Mm-hmm.
It was because I wanted them to be able to have the knowledge that when they grow up, they may not become a trapper. But now they're not an anti-trapper. They actually understand what is happening. So if they're maybe become our president one day, now when they're sitting in those boardrooms and having those hard conversations, they're having firsthand experience of like, wait a minute, that's not really what's happening.
Right.
That's not really what's going on. So, and I think it's so important to start our youth in those situations at the beginning, let them see, get the education. Like I said, not everybody needs to become a trapper. Not everybody needs to become a hunter. Not everybody needs to become an angler. But they need to have that information.
Correct.
To know what's really going on.
Yeah. You used to have, I know here in Tennessee, and it might not be that way everywhere, but you would go through gun safety class in school. Not anti-gun, not don't touch, not don't, report it, but actual safety. And we still have trap teams here in our schools, not trapping like you're trapping, but trap as in shooting.
Yeah, like shoot trap.
Yeah, and that's gun safety. Hunter's education used to be a part of education, like public education. And I think that that's where we have fallen back from. We have fallen back from just educating versus, like you said, we're not out there to try to get everybody to hunt. We're just trying to educate people in the correct way. in safety, in this is what this is for, this is what it's not for, this is, is this something you're interested in? If not, that's okay, but at least you now know the details behind it. And I think it goes hand in hand with home economics and all the skills that we have lost because we are so focused on education testing and being ahead of all of the numbers versus real life education. And I don't know.
Right.
I think
Well, think about, we put so much emphasis on technology. Everything is, even your phone, and I'm guilty of it as well. I Google this and I do that and everything else. But think about if, unfortunately, we had some kind of terrorist attack that, we weren't able to have any technology at all.
Yeah.
And these ships that are sitting in the harbor that can't come through, even ordering food and whatnot, all goes through technology. That's, nobody picks up a phone to place an order. It's all through a computer screen. So how many of us out there would be able to say, okay, I have the life skills that I can take care of my family as far as food, shelter, just basic needs that if I couldn't go to the grocery store, or if I couldn't jump online and order this or that, could I even take care of my family?
Right.
Could I protect them? And that's something too, like trapping, hunting, all of those things. They're giving those basic skills, to make sure that I don't go hungry. I don't have issues where if for some reason something happened, my family would still be taken care of.
Agreed. Very much so agreed. And I think that's like our next generation and the generations behind it and the generations behind it. That is, we're creating more technology to do things for us, and we're losing the ability to do it for ourselves. You are completely correct. And I at least know somebody that knows how to do one thing, and then you figure out how to do another thing so that you can build a small community around you so that you're not alone and you can help take care of each other when things get rough. And I don't know. It goes deeper than just, this is trapping. It goes so much deeper than that. But I do want to know, and I had a question for you. If somebody were interested in starting, especially a woman, because honestly, I could not tell you. I have one friend here near me that I know, but it was only because of the outdoor community that I know she even exists. But how would somebody get involved? You started Trapping Girl, and I'm pretty sure you started it because you did not have a whole lot to go by. You didn't have a community around you of a whole lot of women that were doing it. Right. So how would somebody go about if that was something they were interested in learning? How would they start?
So I'm a big advocate of joining your association. So we all have trapping associations out there, and that's a really great place to start. It's funny that you say, I don't really know that many trappers. You probably know more women trappers than you think you do.
That is true.
It's not something that we really publicize, but and just because of all the backlash you do get from it, you know, right? So unfortunately that's something. But yeah, so I would definitely join your associations. I would definitely jump online and friend me, and we can chat. That's not a problem at all.
Yeah.
There is a very big community of women that are out there. If you go to you'll notice that there's conventions throughout the summer.
Yeah.
You'll see women that are walking around, and that's actually how I started. I went to these trapping conventions, and there was nothing for women. I would see them walking, but there was nothing. And every year that we would go, I would see less and less women because it seemed like, I hate to say a good old boys club, but you know what I mean? I just didn't feel like that we had a presence.
Yeah.
So now we're even like the National Trappers Association. We're this year going to put on a women's workshop in Alaska. That we're doing a women's workshop that I'm part of. There's a lot of workshops now that are out there that are geared just towards women in the trapping community, and it's for all levels. So if you're brand new and you're really not sure where to start, there's different ones all over the country. Like I said, at the NTA this year, which is the National Trappers Convention, we'll have a women's workshop. There's one that I know in March that's going to happen in Alaska. There's one in December that's going to happen in Missouri. There was one that was in Wisconsin in October, the beginning of October, which they're going to do again. There's a lot of those that are out there. And social media is huge. So
yes.
My big thing is, kind of go on Facebook and Google, like, trapping groups and so on, and you'll find tons and tons of trapping groups, and they share all this information in them. Trap Like a Girl actually is a group, and it's all full of women. So that's a great place to kind of join the community into as well.
Yeah, I think that we poo-poo social media a lot, and it comes with a lot of backlash. It truly does, especially when you are dealing with animals. But there's so much good for not feeling lost and alone in what you might want to try and what you might want to do. The support is there. You just have to look for it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But we've talked a lot this season on Her Wild Outdoors. We have talked a lot about finding your tribe and finding the people that have your back, who are encouragers, who are honest with you and call you out on your BS and push you to be the person that they know that you can be. And that's your tribe. That's who you need. And it's hard sometimes, not hard. It might take a while to find it, but as long as you're looking for it, I think that if you're reaching out, you're going to find it. You just have to be willing to do the work and stepping forward instead of holding back and waiting on somebody to find you.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to, how do I want to put this? Not be afraid of who you are.
Yes.
Trapping gets kind of a bad name, or it doesn't look as appealing, from the outside. But that's only because we've allowed these antis and whatnot to have that power over us.
Yes.
We're not doing anything wrong. We're helping so many different areas of the outdoors by trapping. Be proud of who you are. Talk about it. Be a little conscious of what you're putting out there to the world.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's definitely something you need to think about. But at the same time, share it. Be proud of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
When I talk to people about hobby is, I'm a trapper, and I have no problems telling people that.
Because as soon as you say it, they go, wait, what do you mean? Because it opens up a conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
Well, I think that that's a great, I like what you said about being careful. We talk about that a lot on here, is how we have evolved into this day and age of having so much information that some of that information is not for everybody's eyes. And so you have to be very careful in that. But at the same time, shying away from who you are because you're afraid of the response you're going to get just hurts you more.
Yeah, and it's funny because I've talked to some women who are like, well, I don't put this on social media because, Aunt Sally really doesn't like it.
Yeah.
And I've asked them, well, have you had a conversation with Aunt Sally?
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, she just doesn't. And that then becomes on you. Have those conversations with these people. These are supposed to be your friends. These are supposed to be your family. They love you. They want to support you. But if they don't know, they can't.
Yeah. Or tell Aunt Sally, hey, I'm about to post something. Do you want me to block you from it if you don't want to see it? Like, there are so many ways that you can respect somebody who doesn't necessarily want to see it but still wants to support you. There's so many ways that you can create that boundary for them if they need it. But the conversation needs to be had first, and explain why and who you are and the passion behind it. And that might change their minds. If it doesn't, then there is an easy way. There's such an easy way on social media to take one post and say, okay, Aunt Sally doesn't want to see this one post, so I'm gonna block her from it. Just that one post.
Yeah, and you can even create little groups too of people that like you would block, and all you have to do is go in and like hit the little filter, and all those people are blocked, and there's no big deal and no problems, and you move on about your life, and everybody's happy. But yeah, I think having those tough conversations sometimes is huge, because when you don't, you're actually adding to the problem.
Yeah.
You're letting it slide. Oh, I just don't want there to be an issue or whatever. And if you have the right conversation, even afterwards, if you both don't agree and you're not on the same side, like I said, these people love you.
Yeah.
If you have the right conversation in the right way, it doesn't need to be an argument. You're not trying to force them to agree with you. You're just trying to say, hey, this is why I do what I do.
Agreed. You're trying to find one common ground, that one common. It can be something as silly as we like the same gum, and I'm being facetious in that, but it is just finding that one common nugget of ground. And it doesn't have to be it's not a war. It's not you're right, I'm wrong, like you said. It is just being able to listen and understand where everybody's coming from.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But yeah, you can't hide. I tried for a long time, unless I was asked or it came up in conversation. I just didn't bring it up. And I felt I kind of had to question myself. Are you ashamed of what you do? Because if you're not ashamed of what you do, then why won't you talk about it? Why don't you want to show what you're doing? And I'm not talking blood and guts and all of that, but just show the experience of what a trap looks like, or what 95% of hunting is, which is walking in the woods.
Yeah, really. It's so funny, because I've heard people say to me, like, well, I'm trying to protect them. Well, and my thought is and maybe this is a little bold of me, but 90% of the people who look at your social media, we're all adults.
Yeah.
It's not your job to protect them. It's your job to educate them. If they don't like something, they won't.
They don't have to
They'll
look.
unfollow you. They will, whatever. And just because you're not friends on Facebook doesn't mean you're not friends.
Correct.
So,
Correct.
That's how I look at that. So, yeah, it's not your job to protect them. That's their job.
Yeah.
You can't say, oh, they're not going to want to see that. You don't know what they're going to want to see or not.
Yeah.
But it is your job to educate them.
Yep.
And it is your job to make sure that they see what it really is, not what the media or whatever is telling them, what is really happening.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. What have you got coming up?
Oh, my gosh, so much.
I know.
So much. So I have a podcast that I'm actually starting about women in trapping,
Yes.
and that's going to start in November. And then I also, in December, I have that women's group that I told you about.
Yes.
That's going to be in Missouri, which is I'm super excited about, because this is all like brand new trappers. Like, some of them got their license and have never even stuck a trap in the ground before. So
that's awesome.
I'm super excited about that. I am helping the Alaska Association in March. They're holding their women's event. So I get to go to Alaska in March, and I'm like over the moon with that. My husband, it was so funny when this came about. He was like, "Oh, I don't know. It's going to take a lot of time and everything." I'm like, "It is Alaska. Get up and get on the plane. Like, come on."
You don't turn down Alaska.
I know. I'm like, when have you ever been to Alaska? Well, I haven't. Exactly. Shut up and get on the plane.
Yes.
So, yeah, I mean, and then there's, like I said, the NTA next summer. I'm working with a great group of women, and we're trying to put that together at the convention. And then I've got trapping season, and it's just like one thing after another. So many things. So many things.
That's awesome, though. I love that it's growing, because that is... there's a need for growth. There's a need for, and people question that a lot. Why do we need to grow it more? Why do we need to, we don't need all of these people. Well, come on. You're going to be, we are a balance as well. You're going to lose people. You're going to have people that you're maintaining, and then you've got to continually have that cycle of growth in order to keep that balance in there of people who are supporting our outdoor community, who are paying for those licenses, who have the ability to support our parks and recreation, our wildlife resource agencies, like all of that. That's coming from us, from our outdoor community. So we've got to keep that balance in. So we do have to grow it, but take it completely outside of the big picture, trapping, hunting, and angling, but bring it back down to just women in it. And
yeah. So I had a woman who I very much look up to, and a long time ago, she told me that there is no such thing as standing still.
Correct.
You're either moving forward or you're moving backward, and sometimes you don't realize which way you're moving until you've made such a shift that way that you're going to really have to take some energy and some time to even get back to where you were. So we need to make a conscious effort that we're moving forward.
Yep, because if you're not, you're moving backward.
We're moving backward. Yeah. And that's, I think, what people don't always understand. Like you said, why do we need to grow? Why do we need to this? Why do we need to that? Aren't we happy with where we're at? Well, we can only stay where we're at if we make a conscious effort to move forward.
Yes.
Because if we're doing nothing, we're moving backwards.
Yeah, no, we're building.
Everybody else is doing something else.
Yeah, you're growing and you're building right now for not right now. You're doing that for 10 years from now.
Yeah.
You're doing it for the next generation. You're doing it for your kids' life cycle as when you're not here anymore. Like that's what the movement is right now for. What we are doing right now and educating, growing, and building our community isn't for us right now. People have to get that out of their minds. It is for the future. It is the investment that we are making right now for then. Yeah.
Yeah, and so when you have these lawmakers and stuff that are attacking you, you have an army behind you attacking back.
Yes.
You don't wait to build the army whenever you're in the middle of the war.
No. No, you don't. Hey, Linda, thank you so much for today. Tell people how they can follow you real quick.
Oh, yeah. So I am on Instagram as trapping_girl_. You can follow me on Facebook, Linda White, or Trapping Girl Inc., or even under Sawmill Creek. And just reach out. Anybody who ever has any questions, I'm super transparent, and I'm super, relatable and forward with things. So if you ever have any questions or anything, just reach out. And like I said, I got the podcast that's going to soon be coming up, and hopefully people will be able to
learn
more. Log into that too.
Yeah. And also, if you are listening and you have a women's group that you have a couple of trappers in, reach out to Linda. Reach out and see if there's a way that you can get workshops in your local towns and states and be able to support that community around you, not just being a hunting community or a fishing community, but grow it full circle in our whole, not just in our parts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you're wanting to start some kind of event I don't know if I'll absolutely be able to attend your event, but I'm definitely here to help you get everything organized, how to even just approach certain things. Oh my gosh, please reach out. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah, and you have contacts in a lot of places as well, so that if you couldn't
Mm-hmm.
be there, you would have somebody who could represent the trapping
Oh,
community in a
absolutely.
great way. So this Linda's a
Absolutely.
great resource. So use her. Definitely reach out to her, and you've got my support, Linda. I'm excited for you.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.